cat on my lap, 2 dogs at my feet, and a cup of coffee. Good morning. You are with JP, and we are taking another look at the free version of Brizy Page Builder for WordPress and deconstructing some of the blocks that come with the software. And today we are going to look at a block that contains some images. Let's load that block immediately. It's the one over here I chose as you open it under light. We're going to look at the light version, and then at the end I'm going to load the dark version. The reason for that is something that I omitted in the previous video number 6, which I want to mention in this video. Let's load it. Nice 2 images, each with a little bit of info next to them. I want to draw your attention at the beginning to something that I think was curious to me, as I wouldn't have done it this way, but that is that we have 2 columns here and 2 columns here and a spacer. The reason why it is curious to me is that normally when I have this kind of design that I know I'm going to use basically exactly the same below it, I will probably want to put it in a container. In this case, it would be a row. And the reason why I would put it in a row is so I can just duplicate the row, then drag these 2, and then just, don't need to recreate everything from the beginning. But we'll look at that at the end. Let's then first do what the Brizy guys did. Load our own block, which is an empty block, and I'm going to delete the default that they give us. We're going to have some real estate problem here, so I'm going to just decrease my view a little bit. What is this, 80%? So we can see a little bit better. And then, as I've said, we've got 2 columns here. So we go to the elements, drag in the columns, and it will by default create 2 columns. The sliders in Brizy is very nice between the columns, this little blue handle that you see here. And with this you can freely change the size of the columns. I really like this, same as in Elementor, something I wish Divi, you guys can maybe think of, but this is what I really like. And I like the percentages given to us there at the top. If you are slap bang in the middle, it's 50-50, and then you can see the percentages. And I have to say it's quite well responsive to my touch. If I want to do it like at 30-70, it's not that difficult. So what did they do at the top? They gave us a 40-60, and I'm going to do that here. Drag in 40, 60, and now the cat has started moving around. Just stay off the keyboard. Okay, don't bump the microphone either, and that's where I lose it. There we go. You can get it. There's no way you can input that manually. You have to drag it at this moment. Then first thing is an image, and this is where we work with a image element. We did look briefly at that in the previous video. Let's grab the image element over here, drag it in. And the moment you drag it in, immediately you will notice that this container, these 2 columns are much wider than the ones at the top, and that tells us it is our box settings. We go to box and we get 85%. So let's go to our box over here and drag it down to 85%. Maybe this is too small for anyone to see. Let me just increase it a little bit. Then let's load that image. I found the image on Unsplash, our good friends, image. And then we're going to grab our sofa image and drop it in there. And it will load this one for us. And it's going to take some time because the internet is so slow, but eventually we will get there, hopefully still today. Right, maybe while we're waiting for the image to load, and as I say that, the image loads. So the question is, as you can see, of course, that this one looks very different than this one, and that is because these guys have scaled it. So click on the image, go to your settings, and you will notice size is at 100%, but the height is at 152%. Like I mentioned previously, the height can be adjusted in 2 ways. One, you can drag this slider here, and that will adjust the height. Alternatively, you click on the image and you can grab the middle handle at the bottom and adjust the height. Top one is not going to do much for you. So let's just do that. Grab the bottom and we drag it. And what you notice as you scale the height, the width of the container remains the same. The only way to change the width of the container is to change the column width. You are not going to be able to change the column width by dragging the image. Let me show you. If I grab this bottom right hand corner handle and I drag it, you're not going to see the column width expand. To expand this image width, you need to grab that and the column handle and drag it. That's the only way you are going to be able to achieve that. So let's keep dragging this height, and then let's go check 152. I'm way over it, so I'm just going to type in 152. Did we get the same image? Yeah, we did. In fact, very nice. You can look at those dimensions and you will see everything fits in perfectly. Next one, let's quickly do this one, and then we can look at the margins and the padding. We've got two text elements here. Oops, text element here, text element there. And this one, my dear friends, is a button. So let's go, scroll down. I'm going to drag in the two text elements and our button. I often like to work like this. If I know what I want, I just drag them all in, and from there on, I will go ahead with my content and my design. Gorgeous. What did they say? Gorgeous. Gorgeous. Little Britain. And then let's just copy paste this one into the here. And then let's see what they did here. Was it a heading 3? And the color is probably the second swatch. Go to typography, heading 3, and we make the swatch the second one. Good. And then for the paragraph, I think everything is the same. And then here for our button, it is the normal color. Now I have to look very carefully. It's the light blue, but for the hover element, it is a darker blue. And our typography is button. So let's grab that. We align it first to the left. Go to typography, it is on button, and then for the styling, I believe it is, now I have to go check, is it nothing? I think it's nothing. I say that, yep, nothing. It is the X element. And then for the text, we have to go here to text, light blue, and then for the hover, we're just going to make it that darker blue. Oh, this is again back to background. Let's take it out. Let's go to text, hover. Why did it do that? Right. So be careful. Things jump around. And we're going to type in there, view more. We can just type it directly in line editing. And view more. Good. Of course, we have to get all our spacing done here. And we are going to be looking at our column for that. The column is going to give us a margin plus some padding and also some alignment. First place we're going to find the alignment is over here, puts everything in the center. And then we're going to look at our padding, which is 30, 65, 30, 65, and giving us margins of 515, 515, which I would say is the normal way it is brought in. Let's go first and put everything there in the center, and then go to 30. For our padding is 30, tap, 65, and 65. And our margins, no, it wasn't. So we're going to make the margins also 15, 5, and 15. Right. Now we have done this box perfectly, or this column perfectly. Nice copy of this one up there. But we have to make a few changes to this one as well, so that this border of the picture aligns with the background color. And that's something we still have to do for the block. So let's do that. Go to the block, click on color, and let's copy the code here at the bottom and apply it to our block. And then we have to go here to our column, click on color, and apply our background. Now we can see. Now the reason why we have to remove this margin over here is so that the top of the image can align with the top of this background. If we look at the column, you're going to see that the column gives us the normal 515, 515. So the margins here over 0. If you look at the one at the bottom, the one that we dragged in, you will see it's exactly the same. So what has been changed is our image. So let's go back to our image, click on image and go to more settings, and you will see padding and margin both on 0. Let's do that, and we're just going to link everything here by clicking on this little square, bring it to 0, and there we go. Hey presto. Now here comes the decisions. How am I going to recreate the bottom part without having to do all of this again? And there are quite a number of ways. You can do it by yourself, and of course you can just go ahead and do everything again from scratch, drag into columns, place your image element and do all those text plus the button. But we want to save time, and the best way I would have done it is to start off with a row and put these inside a row and then just duplicate the row. But because we are recreating this block, I'm going to guess what they did. The first thing before we start with the guessing game is we're going to add this spacer in the middle, which is at 30 pixels. Let's do the same for ours. Grab the spacer, in you go lad. Oops. Control Z for undo. Let's do it again. Right, and we make that 30 pixels. These things are stuck in my head now, 50 pixels for a spacer. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate these columns and drag them below. I'll start with this one first to show you. Duplicate it. And I made a mistake. I duplicated the element, not the column. So Control Z for undo. Let's go to the column. Duplicate the column. Then grab the handle of either of the columns until you get under the spacer and let it go. And now what happened? You think, yes, okay, that's a good workaround, but we lost the spacing or the sizing that we've applied on the top one. And that's the only problem. You lose that. Let's just copy this one as well, and then we're going to fix that. What we do now is we grab, again, the column. When we drag it to the bottom one, to the right, until you see the thick blue bar on the right, let it go. I so want to start singing Let It Go now. And then we have to adjust it. So, if you're going to do it this way, you maybe just want to do everything first and then do your changes over here. Otherwise, you can just wait until what I've just done. Now let's grab this one here because we want to move it. And we're going to move it all the way to the right. And then we are going to apply the same to this side with 40% here. Yeah, is it 40%? Let me check again. Yeah, make it 40%, mama. Okay. And now all we need to do is change the image. And we grab, again, the image, we delete this one, and we upload the wine bottle. Also, the image I got from Unsplash. So I was lucky this time. I got the identical images. And you can see immediately, I'm not going to change the text for this one, but immediately, this is how you can deconstruct the block and make your own. One of the things I would like to see in the image element is some kind of indication of the pixel height. I'm interested in these things, but we get this height in a percentage. Now, you will tell me, well, there you go, it's 152%, but it's not 152% of the column. It's 152% of the image. The reason I know, because if you go to this image, which have different dimensions, and you click here, you will see it is a 68%. This image has been scaled down in height, whereas this image has been scaled up in height. So there is no benchmark or relation between the width of the column and the height of the column and the size of the image. So if you wanted a perfect, pixel perfect image, you are not going to get it currently because there's no way of saying I want this image at a minimum height of 400 pixels. That is something I like. It's just given me that confidence that I can put all my images at a minimum height of something like 400 or 600 megapixels, depending on what I'm trying to do. I quickly want to show you my style of design for this. I like the block a lot, but if I had to design it, I would naturally just try and get rid of all the spaces. This is just my personal preference. And this is not the block, of course. I'm going to make all of this down. I'm take my padding down to 0. No. What am I doing? Let's keep the padding around there. Keep the margin down. And then again for this one over here, I'm going to do the same. Padding, yeah, let's take the padding also down because we're working with it. Margin. And this is a very typical design that you also find online. Increase this to 40. I had the other one at 40. I may have to, and the margins, definitely bring the margin down to 0. I think maybe for the padding we have to increase that a little bit more. We can do that. Well, we want to keep them the same. And then, of course, for the image, we have to click on the column and then go here, 0. Right. What do I have to reduce the margins? Let's do that quickly as well and bring down. I'm again on the image and not on the column. Padding down. Good. This is alternative style, which I like a lot. I like this kind of design. There's nothing wrong with this design. It gives a little bit more space. I like this kind of, things with no space in between, negative space. And of course, you can then also go to your block. So let's just bring this back to 100%. And if you go to your block setting and you make it full, you're going to get very nice, very big design on it. Of course, it's not going to be this big because we are missing maybe a sidebar or, some other elements, things that you can do with it. But hey, I like it. This is pretty nice. This is basically the end of the deconstruction of this block, but I want to show you just quickly something on the dark version. And it's got nothing to do with the fact that it's dark. It just contains a feature for which I want to say a few things because I missed it in the previous tutorial. And that is the border. Now the border is applied in this case by going to our column. You go here on your settings, more settings, and you find the border here at the bottom. So the reason why I want to point this out, because to me there is a little bit of a logical disconnection here. Because let's say the border is 0, it is gone. And now I want to increase the border, let's make it there around 3. They had it at 3. But I want to have a white border. Now where do you go to change the color? Nowhere here. And that's where you now have to go out of this side panel. You have to go back to your column, up to colors here at the top, and here you will find the border. And now you can change the color. It must be on a lower opacity. Move that up to white so you can see it more clearly. This to me was a strange design decision on the UI, and I hope it's something that we can still think about how Brizy is going to work in the future. But if I want to change the color and width of this border, I have to go to 2 separate menus. And to me, that just isn't logical. I love the toolbar function up here, but the fact that I have to click here for my color and then go to settings, more settings to change the border, this to me is really just too much, too many steps that is needed for something that should be grouped together. And I think this is probably one of the dilemmas that every page builder runs into is, what do you put where? Do you go the Elementor style where you have Elementor and Divi both have this, that you have your border and under border you have a color option again? Or do you do what Brizy is doing at the moment by giving us one color checker up here, but then for everything else you have to go and find them on separate places? So I wanted to highlight this because it's not one of the things that I can promote at this moment. To me, this is not a fluid workflow. Everything else goes so smoothly and so quickly in Brizy. But this part where some things like the border size and then the border color over here, this is too much disconnection for me to say this is a good workflow. It's my personal opinion. Maybe you love it, but I'm not entirely even sure how to solve it. Do you start adding color elements everywhere across the page again, like we have in Elementor and Divi? Or do you bring the border slider and you add it up here to this toolbar, and in the end you have a massive toolbar again like we have in Themify, which many people don't like, which I don't have a problem with. If I can have all the tools here to my usage, I would be very happy with that. Okay, so that is my 2 cents on the border and the color of the border. But all in all, we deconstructed this block. It went very smoothly. But of course, there is still some limitations to the fact that if you just want to copy this and then duplicate it later, you will lose these settings that you had over here for the 40-60 ratio of the 2 columns. Hope you learned something from that video, or if you didn't, maybe this video helped you fall asleep, and then have a good night. See you in the next video.